Hello, everyone. Welcome to another episode of Down in the Country podcast. I'm your host, Dylan Reed, and today we are joined by another up and coming country music artist, Matt Rogers. Matt, thank you so much for your time today.
Dylan, thanks for having me on, man.
It's great to have you. And so, just to get into it, so you describe your music as captivating audiences with heartfelt lyrics, with a unique, distinct voice, with a specific talent for storytelling. And just out of curiosity, how has that propelled you in establishing your identity as an up and coming country music artist? And how do you project it will continue to do so?
Before I moved to Nashville, I didn't even know that co-writing was a thing. As far as like, you can have a job here in Nashville where you go down to Music Row every day and you get in a room with a couple of people and write a song. And I do that for a lot of the time. But before I moved to town and really started pursuing this, I wrote songs on my own. So I think that kind of helped develop what I wanted to say and how I wanted to say it, and my phrasing and my syncopation and the little knickknack things of songwriting that you just kind of develop on your own. I think me writing a bunch of songs by myself starting out is what really laid a foundation for how I was going to approach songwriting and how I was going to kind of craft my voice and what I wanted to say.
And kind of going from writing on your own to co-writing, how was that process like for you?
It was very interesting because I very much enjoy kind of the psychology of it to see how other people approach songwriting and how their mind works. And it's kind of cool when you write with someone often. You can see how their synapses are firing on how one idea will take them down this road and it'll take you down this road, but somehow you cross paths in the middle of the song and really get something beautiful.
Hmm.
Um, it's been a really cool thing, and co-writing helps a lot because in this town in particular, I think are the best songwriters in the world. So you learn a lot when you start writing with people that have had quite a bit of success or have been doing it longer than you, and um, have kind of got a pretty good grasp on how to make art. Um, you really learn a lot on formulas and formatting and little tricks of the trade that you can use for different situations. It's really been a great. It really expedites your growth for sure as a songwriter.
Mhm. And it's just a little bit of kind of my personal background. So I wouldn't call myself a songwriter at all. So I would say I'm still in that baby skill set. So like I'm still crawling. I'm not walking yet. But just writing my experiences down on pieces of paper, like just seeing that entire process within itself, it's like, oh wow, I'm I mean, it's a slow process, mind you, but I'm slowly but surely getting a little bit better each time, even if it's only one line that I'm able to do with the limited amount of time that I have.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, that's kind of the name of the game. It's a lot like yoga or math. You're never going to beat it. You're never going to be like, all right, well, I beat songwriting. I'm at the top. There's certain days where you just are beating your head against the wall because you're like, man, this is a great idea. I should easily be able to write this idea. Why are we hitting speed bump after speed bump?
Hmm.
So there's days you feel like you're a baby often in this. It's a very humbling thing
Yeah.
because it's so much bigger and it's so much better than you are. So it's uh, it's a humbling thing for sure, and it's good. I feel like to kind of keep that perspective.
Hmm. No, definitely. And to kind of change gears a little bit, so two songs that I really wanted to highlight: "Whiskey Don't" and "South Dakota Sky." Could you just provide an introduction first to "Whiskey Don't"?
Yeah, absolutely. I live in a town where we try to figure out all of the things that whiskey can do. Uh, Sometimes we're better at it than others. But I was with my buddy Eric Erdman one day, and we were riding over at my house, and we were just kind of going through some ideas. And I was like, man, what if we took a twist on all of these things that people have 100,000 songs about all the things whiskey will make you do, and talk about the things that whiskey won't do. And then we had that little clever twist at the end where the hook is, where everyone wants me to talk about it, but whiskey don't. So kind of depravity, it's kind of a sad song. To an extent. It's a breakup song, so it is what it is. But yeah, I thought it was just a really fun idea to make it twist like that, even
Yeah.
though it's kind of sad subject matter. It was a challenge to write it that way and to talk about an experience of a breakup. And sometimes you just want to bury yourself and not talk to anybody about it. So
Uh, totally get it. And you mind if we play a little clip of Whiskey Don't?
absolutely, yeah. I can hear my phone keep ringing. All my buddies wanna help. They've seen the empty bottles. They smell it on my breath. They'll give me good advice, but it's more than I can take. It might be the truth, but I don't wanna hear them say, whiskey don't make things get better. Whiskey don't unbreak a heart. Whiskey don't care who's at fault and how things got the way they are. I'm in no mood for conversation about her and moving on. And everyone wants me to talk about it, but whiskey don't.
And what I really like about specifically that song, so the first thing I really want to tackle, so you combine your kind of your musical style as well as your storytelling abilities quite nicely in that, and then it kind of is really kind of reflective too as well. The thing that I was really paying attention the most about was those stools in the background, like because you would think with a bar, like everyone would be around, but you kind of really play on that kind of antithesis of being in a bar, country music. So kind of were you kind of looking to kind of do the inverse of what listeners of country music tend to think about when they think of the bar as the relationship to the music?
Yeah, it's we really were trying to focus in on that first stage of grief, which is the sad, lonely part of it, where you just want to shut everybody out before you start kind of getting over and getting through a
Mhm.
particular situation. Um, so that isolated kind of idea was what we were thinking. It's like you're not going during the party times. You're not going when everybody's there. You're at the bar to get away from everything. So it was really important when we were trying to make the video to kind of
Mhm.
isolate that part of it.
And and one of the things that I've always been very curious about, on this podcast is kind of that production process of singles. So everything from like writing, mixing, mastering, and then finally the cutting stages. So kind of what was that entire process like for Whiskey Don't?
Well, I write a bunch of songs when I decide, what we're going to release. And I put a full length record out a couple years ago called Cole. But
Mhm.
since then, we've just kind of been putting singles out until we get ready to kind of make a new project kind of thing. Um, Typically, I'll write two or three songs that I'll be like, oh, I'm in the middle of a record. You know what I mean?
Mhm.
And that gives you a little bit more direction on how to finish the record. Um, but sometimes good songs are just good songs, and that's why you single them. Um, and with this one, we wrote it and we sat on it for a while and we played it out and we played. We have things that we call writers rounds here in town at bars where you kind of play in front of your peers and you tell the story and you play the song with just you and the guitar. Um, and you had some of our friend group who we respect as songwriters were like, man, I think you guys might have one there. Um, so we just kind of sat on it for a little while, and it came time to start cutting some music. And I sat down with my management team and my production team, and we were kind of going through some songs. And I really was fighting for this song because I was like, man, I think there's something here. I think it'll turn out really cool if we do it the way that we eventually ended up recording it. Which, if you've ever seen my live show, it's kind of more kind of that grungy rock and roll electric guitars kind of thing. It is more like a roller coaster. We'll bring it down and do the acoustic songs and do the South Dakota Skies and Coal and kind of that storytelling stuff. But most of the time it's up and it's big, loud electric guitars. And that's the sound that I've always liked. I love Southern rock, the Allman Brothers Band, Leonard Skinner, Marshall Tucker Band, stuff like that. So that's the sound that I've always really liked.
Hmm.
Um, so it was important to kind of blend the two there. You had to match the feel of what the song was, um, but I really wanted that kind of edgy rock, big chunky guitars kind of thing going, and it's got slide guitar on it. One of the best slide solos I've heard on any song ever. A guy named Rob McNally played that solo, and I mean, just crushed it on about the second take. So, and I love that too, because like I said, Allman Brothers Band, Leonard Skinner, all that slide stuff is awesome. So it was really trying to fuse the sound that I'm trying to put out with the song and make it fit the right mood.
Hmm. And you bring up actually an interesting point. So would you say that the Allman Brothers were a big part of your musical journey in becoming an artist in the country music space?
100%. Yeah. That's it's one of my favorite all time bands. Um, I think they were just genius. I still don't think there's bands today that do things as cool as they did, as far as arrangements go, and as far as like, uh, you know, guitar parts and guitar harmonies and the way they put things together. Even time signatures. They have different songs that just change time signatures from measure to measure or in the chorus, and it's just. I mean, it's really brilliant music.
Hmm. Yeah. And the other single that I really wanted to highlight, and you touched upon it, was South Dakota Sky. And could you just provide, similarly to Whiskey Don't, just an introduction of what the song is about and what it means to you?
Yeah, when I sit down to write, a lot of times I kind of group it into two things. Like whiskey don't would be option one, where you have ideas and you sit down with a group of people or another person to co-write, and you kind of both chip away at it till you write a song. And it's more of the business approach here in Nashville of, hey, let's write the best song we can write with the ideas that we came up with. The other side of that coin is what I would call inspired writing, and that's when an idea kind of hits me, and I'm just got a flood of creativity, and I like can't get it all out. So I'm just trying to just capture the thoughts as fast as I can, and then pair it with the music and um, kind of put the song together after I kind of have a vomit of creativity. That song particularly stemmed from I was out in the Midwest and I was playing some shows and they were going terrible. I was doing like 6 a.m. radio spots and 11 a.m. midday news segments and playing acoustic shows in the evening before I went back to the area later in the year with the band. And, I finished an 11 a.m. midday news segment in Des Moines, Iowa, and I went to this bar and I have this thing called an EPK that I give to talent buyers and bar owners and everybody everywhere I play, called Electronic Press Kit. It's got, high res photos you can use for promotional materials. It's got every bit of press I've ever been in, links to my music, links to my team, everything you could want to know about me and my music career on one website page. And, but some folks like to do their own homework. So I get there and it says live tonight, Matt Rogers, and it's got this grainy, chopped, like cropped down photo that they got off my Facebook page when we were on a big stage doing shows with Cole Swindell. And it says live tonight, Matt Rogers, and it's a grainy, cropped down picture of my guitar player on that stage. So it wasn't even me. So I was like, this is off to a great start. And I get in there to sound check. It's like 3:30 in the afternoon, and he's hammered drunk and I'm like trying to sound check and do my thing, and he's like, "Hey man, you want to party? Hey man, you want to party? Hey man, that kind of deal." And I don't know if you know what that means, but when you're in sketchy dive bars, a lot of times that means, do you want to do cocaine? And I was like, no, sir, I do not want to do cocaine at 3:30 in the afternoon on a Wednesday in Des Moines, Iowa. So that's about how good the shows are going. And it was like 4 or 5 of those in a row. And the last night I ended a show in a small town called Pickstown, South Dakota. It was a Valentine's Day show, which led me to believe they had also not looked at my EPK at all, because I had 13 breakup songs at the time and like 0 love songs, and it was a Valentine's show. But that show ended up being all right. It was really cool. A lot of the cowboys were coming in with their significant others, and they all had like their vest or their jacket on that said what ranch they worked at. And I remember playing and like trying to figure out which one was Rip and whose ass he was going to kick. Um, but I had a really good time with those Cowboys. I played some old Cowboy songs for them at the end and some covers, and they had a real good time. They were dancing and drinking and having a real good evening out of it. But I got back to my hotel room that night and I just looked out. And if you've ever been in that part of the country, it's like no trees. It's just like horizon meets landscape. And I could see every star in the sky. And I had that question that dreamers and songwriters and artists and everybody has at one point, which is, was this a very good idea? And and I had that moment of where I was kind of doubting myself, kind of questioning what I was doing, uh,
Mm-hmm.
and as you can tell, from the start of that song to the end of that song, it's kind of the whole first half is me questioning myself and wondering what am I really doing here, and by the end of it, I figure out that I'm exactly where I'm supposed to be, and things are right on schedule, and there's always a plan for you, even though it might not move as fast as you want it to sometimes. So
Mm-hmm.
it's really kind of inspirational to me because I can go right back to that moment when I start feeling self-doubt. It was like a therapeutic session for me, right? So
Mm-hmm.
when I start to feel that kind of way, I can go right back to that moment I wrote that song and kind of pump myself back up and change my perspective and kind of turn to that glass half full instead of half empty and start looking at the focusing on the positive things in my life and all the things I have been able to accomplish and keep grinding and keep working and keep trying to be better.
Awesome. No, that's a fascinating story. And mind if we also play a clip to kind of showcase to people too as well,
Sure.
that
Yeah.
great story you told us.
A thousand miles away from home, but it doesn't feel like I'm alone. I can hear the whisper in the wind, that voice of reason's creeping in, and the gears won't stop turning. All the lessons I've been learning still don't keep my mind from asking why. Am I doing what I should be? Do the lyrics really move me? Or am I only playing guitar with words that rhyme? Is there something to the story? Uncharted territory. Maybe I'm just tired or I'm just high. But the stars are asking questions in the South Dakota sky.
So I'm gonna first off, I say everyone listen to Whiskey Doan and South Dakota Sky. You can find them on Spotify to listen to. But I was gonna say about South Dakota Sky, I really loved specifically the video reel where it looks like you're coming out of a truck. I do love kind of that plaid lumberjack shirt. Uh, and were you in actually? Were you in like a cornfield? It looks like, or a wheat field?
I was, yeah.
And if you, was there like a reasoning for kind of that particular setting, or did you was it just
Well,
kind of
I didn't want to go back to South Dakota to shoot the video. Spoiler alert. It's a long way away. So I tried to find something that was as big and as vast, anything that mirrored kind of that. We tried to frame the shots to capture that. Um, so we wanted it to be that I wanted it to feel that same feeling I felt like where you feel just significantly insignificant. You know what I mean? Where it's just like everything is so much bigger than you are.
hmm
Um, so I tried to find somewhere that we could kind of capture that feeling.
hmm no, and it's no, whoever did the video for you did a very great job. Um,
Yeah, that's my man Justin Mayette. He does all of my videos and photos and stuff, and he's awesome, man. He's really great to work with.
awesome. No, that and similarly, like kind of what was the what was that production process like for that song? So everything from kind of the writing to the cutting, was it similar to Whiskey Doe in its respective journey? Or would you say it's different?
Yeah, I would say it's quite a bit different there because it wasn't like hey, this song needs to have all these bells and whistles and all the frills, and everything needs to be stacked and all these extra parts and overproduced. Like the whole point of that song was to be as stripped as possible. Just
Mhm.
have, kind of the dobro for the emotional aspect, have really strong vocal harmonies, and let the song kind of do the storytelling. I feel like the more parts you start adding in production, the less impactful sometimes the lyric may be. And when there's something you really want to isolate, like the lyric on that particular song, it's
Mhm.
less is more.
Mhm. And you know, changing gears now to from your music to where you're from, Eatonton, which is a small town in Georgia. So, how do you like? What do you want your listeners to know about what you experienced in your hometown through your music?
Right. I feel like if I do my job for the most part, you should be able to pick up on it. For certain songs, I have a song called Tailgate Town, and Tea was a little sweeter. Kind of those nostalgia songs about growing up, Thunderbird, Britches, a handful of my songs that are very much centered around growing up where I grew up.
Hmm.
I Was Raised in particular, which is a song that I put out that kind of started my whole career. Um, those were just things about who I am and where I'm from. Um, it's easy to take the influences from that stuff because they say write what you know, and that's exactly where I was. Those were the shoes I was in. That's the path that I walked. So it was really easy to put those things. I'm very proud of where I come from. I'm very uh, thankful for the support of the people that live there and that have been so good to me over the years. So I try to give back to that as often as I can.
Yeah, and so is Eatonton? Would you say it's kind of one of those where like Sally knows Sue and Sue knows Jim and Jim knows Mark? Like,
Yeah, it's very tight knit. Everybody knows everybody there, and all the families are really tight. It's a dairy farming community too, so lots of farmers there, and everybody helps each other out, and they pull together in times of crisis or in times to celebrate or everything. So it's really is a great place.
awesome. No, because yeah, and that's kind of what I've learned throughout this podcast experience is that it's in, like people's hometowns are like very well represented in their music. So I think it's very important too because it gives you an understanding of who an artist is as a person.
Yeah, I feel sometimes folks are either ashamed of where they came from or are glad they got out, and a lot of folks don't have the support that I've had. I worked in the medical field in Macon, Georgia for a while, and I was kind of just playing music and gigging on the side and writing songs. And when I kind of decided I was going to go do this and it was going to be a career, I didn't have anybody really question me or anybody try to squash down my dreams. At least to my face. People might have thought I was crazy. Sometimes I think I'm crazy, but
Mm-hmm.
it's only been support. From the job I was working to the people I grew up with to the people in my hometown, everybody just kind of was like, go for it.
Mm-hmm.
And that's the perspective I've tried to keep, that life is what you make it. We've got one go round at this thing. So, might as well go after what makes your soul happy.
Mm-hmm. No, definitely agree. And which kind of goes into my next question nicely. So you've achieved many accomplishments, such as kind of what you were earlier in the conversation. We're mentioning Cole, your latest album, 4 million plus streams of your music, Artist of the Year of the Georgia Country Awards, multiple songwriting awards from NSAI and CMT to name a few. And so I'm curious, how have you remained true to yourself, not just as an artist, but just as a human being from Eatonton, Georgia?
Man, I was very lucky to meet some really cool people even before I moved to town. And I played an open mic at the Bluebird, and there was a guy named Hugh Moffett who probably doesn't even remember me or know who I am. But for a period of time when I would meet those guys that had success, there were so many people that were new, green, brand new, eager, ambitious that would just rush up. Please write with me. I'll write with you. I tried to go with the opposite approach and just be like, hey, you've had quite a bit of success. You've been around this town for a while. What is some advice that you would give to somebody that's brand new to town that really is
Mhm.
looking to go to the next level and make something out of this thing? And I've over the years, I've gotten unbelievably good advice because of that. But I don't believe I'd even moved to town at this point when I asked that question. And he told me to dare to be ordinary was the direct quote. And it's always stuck with me because it took me a little while to figure out exactly what he was talking about. Um, so many people, when they start going down this path of being an artist or being a songwriter or whatever, you think I have to write what people want to hear. I have to act a way that can sell. I have to be something that I'm not. You have to dress up. You have to wear this. You have to act this way. You have to be this persona. Um, and the majority of the time that fails. It may have some flash in the pan success, but a majority of the time that fails. And what he was really saying with dare to be ordinary is when you are yourself and you think you're boring and ordinary, that is the only time you're truly unique. We are inherently unique because of how we were created. Each individual person has their own personality traits and their own looks and their own things that they're into that make them unique. So I've really tried to put that weight onto that thing and never push away from that. Never say, man, well, oh, this is how, even in the songwriting process, well, this is how it would sound if somebody was writing this song for radio, or this is how this would be if it was X, Y, and Z. You can't go back and overthink it and overcorrect it. You just have to let the chips fall where they may. Um, and there's so many great examples of that through not only in music, but just across the board in art
Mhm.
of people just, painting or drawing what they wanted to and the way they did it, and people appreciated it at one time or another as long as they stayed consistent.
Mhm.
um, there I also try to not let my ego get in the way too, which is a very hard thing that a lot of folks are won't talk about. It's very easy to say, well, I'm good at this, I can do this, why is X, Y, and Z happening and this happening. The awards are cool. It's cool to know that it's appreciated and that you had a song that connected with somebody, or other people that are in that space appreciate it. But it goes right back to what I was saying. It's like math or yoga. You're never going to beat it. So if you're not trying to get better, you're staying the same. Um,
Mhm.
so I really try to stay out of my own way with the ego and focus on task at hand, which is writing better songs, being a better singer, being a better player, being better live show, being a better recording artist, the whole thing. Like, be better at all of it. And if you chase that, I think eventually you'll end up where you need to be.
Mhm. Oh, that's very insightful, and it kind of also goes into my next question nicely too as well. So you also want to give back to the Nashville community as well, and you're one of the driving forces behind Nashville Nights, which showcases not only your music but the skills of other musicians and songwriters. And being involved in this project, how have you seen the genre change, and where do you hope it um, where do you hope it goes from there?
Yeah, I mean, that particular project is our mission is founded by songwriters to support songwriters. I mean, that is the mission. Songwriters are taken advantage of in this town at every turn, and Nashville was built on the backs of songwriters. Without great songs, there would be no Nashville, Tennessee. But they're always, the last to get recognized, the last to get paid. With streaming royalties now, there's almost no money. Even when I moved to town, like staff publishing jobs, meaning songwriters that had uh, a salary that were getting paid to write. I mean, there was probably 2,500, if not more. Now I think that number is around 400 or 500.
Mhm.
It's just because there's not as much money in publishing. So the whole mission is there's these people that are creating incredible songs, and there's such a monopoly on radio and on songs that pay for publishing, that it's about letting those folks have a way to get their songs out while also making a little money. It's about putting songwriters to work and hopefully helping them subsidize them staying in Nashville and make a little money to do so. We're kind of in the early stages of it, but we all support songwriters in this community, and most of us are songwriters. So it's just about finding other ways to beat the system.
Mhm. No, that's very. And how many people are involved in the project? Like how many songwriters come in?
We literally have a pool of hundreds of songwriters and that's when we go to these venues or to these theaters or to these special events. It all depends on the budget or depends on what they can do. We can cater to almost any event with songwriters and provide music for a great evening. Um, so it's been really exciting. It's been really good for the heart to know that you're helping, or trying to help or trying to make a difference. And it's cool to when we go on these experiences and see these songwriters have a great time, or maybe two strangers that come on the same show and end up bonding, becoming friends, and who knows what kind of songs they're going to write now because they became friends.
Mhm.
That's kind of what the whole thing is about. It's just about the love of crafting songs
Mhm.
and trying to help people that are chasing it make a little money.
Mhm.
Um,
And and what and what does country music mean to you?
if you boil it all the way down, to me, if it's distilled to one thing, it's a great song. Uh, all of the rest of it can be put together as long as there's a great song. If it starts with a great song, then you got to have great production. You got to have a great vocal. All of those things. But if the song's no good, it doesn't matter how good the production is or how good the vocal is. Song's got to be there first. And Nashville has always been about great songs. I really believe that everybody's trying to write the best, most clever thing they can write, which is an inspiring thing to be around.
Mhm.
It makes you constantly think. You can take the most mundane saying, or you hear somebody say something in a bar, and wheels start turning. You start trying to think, how can I twist that? How can I say that differently? What's a better way to do that?
Mhm.
So I think as long as it's a great song, there's a NSAI. Their whole slogan here is it all starts with a song, which is very true. A song can change the world sometimes.
Mhm. Definitely. And do you any EP, singles, album shows that you would like listeners to know about?
Yeah, MattRogersCountry.com. You can stay up to date with all of my shows and new music. I will say I have a song called Never Know World coming out on October the 4th. Really, really special song to me. I think the video turned out amazing as well. We went hiking and we're way up on a cliff, and there's lots of really cool drone shots. And um, it's a song that means a whole lot to me. It's great for those people that are dreamers and those people that are pursuing something, whether it's in the arts or they're wanting to be their own, their business owner or anything like that. It's about overcoming all the odds because it's a never know world, and anything can happen.
Mhm. And any other places that people can listen to your music too, Matt?
Available anywhere you steal your music. So Spotify, Apple, Amazon, YouTube, everywhere you listen to, Pandora, all of it. So anywhere you listen, I'd love for you to check it out. Shoot me a message. Let me know what you think.
Awesome. And don't forget to subscribe to Down in the Country podcast on YouTube, as well as the audio versions of this podcast are available on Spotify and Apple Podcast. Thank you so much again for your time today, Matt.
Dylan, this was awesome. Thanks, man.
Thank you. This is Dylan Reed signing off.